Over the past week or so, there has been lots of speculation and speculative articles regarding these attacks in Mumbai, India. And much of the details remain elusive, of course. There have been articles regarding intelligence agencies involved, who knew what and when. Rice is on her way to pressure India to put pressure on Pakistan, and so on. But to me, it seems, reading all these details, sometimes we tend to miss the elephant in the room. And Paul Craig Roberts has probably written one of the articles which, in my opinion, go to the crux of the issue. So I will share some excerpts, or rather some long excerpts from this article. So here is Paul Craig Roberts. Is Pakistan responsible for the Mumbai attack in India? No. Is India's repression of its Muslim minority responsible? No. Is the United States government responsible? Yes. The attack on Mumbai required radicalized Muslims. Radicalized Muslims resulted from the U.S. overthrowing the elected government in Iran and imposing the Shah many years ago. From the U.S. stationing troops in Saudi Arabia, from the U.S. invading and attempting to occupy Afghanistan and Iraq, bombing weddings, funerals, children's soccer games, and from the U.S. violating international and U.S. law by torturing its Muslim victims, from the U.S. enlisting Pakistan against its war against the Taliban, from the U.S. violating Pakistan's sovereignty by conducting military operations on Pakistani territory, killing Pakistani civilians, from the U.S. government supporting a half of a century of Israeli ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from their lands, towns, and villages, from the assault of American culture on Muslim values, from the U.S. purchasing the government of Egypt to act as its puppet, and from U.S. arrogance that America is the supreme arbiter of morality. Crime is contagious. Government teaches by example, and America's example is now lawlessness. America's brutal crimes against the Muslim world have invited every Muslim to become a law unto himself, a revolutionary. It's not the terror that Washington confronts. Sorry, it is not terror that Washington confronts, but a revolution. By illegal, uncivilized, and undiplomatic behavior, the U.S. has steered Muslim peoples from their long slumber as serfs of Western colonial powers. Some Muslims will have had all they can take, and their fury drives them to rouse 1 billion of their fellows to throw off the yoke of foreign hegemony. The arrogant incompetence of American governments brought this conflict to the American people and inflicted it upon the world. By destabilizing Pakistan, the U.S. lost a puppet and created an opportunity for Muslim revolutionaries to exploit. By enraging India against Pakistan, the Mumbai attack has created new problems for Pakistan that will focus that government's attention away from combating Taliban sanctuaries on Pakistani's border with Afghanistan. If the U.S. picks up the slack, it will have invaded yet another country and become trapped in an even larger quagmire. Having fomented terrorism, the American government now pretends to be innocent, an innocent victim just as the Israelis do, having brought about terrorism by driving Palestinians from their homes and villages and they also pretend to be innocent victims. The American government, which preaches freedom and democracy, has in the 21st century, which has just come about a few years ago, gone to great extremes to stamp out the U.S. Constitution and the civil liberties it guarantees. The U.S. government has repudiated the Geneva Convention and the prohibitions in U.S. statutory law against torture. The U.S. government has set aside habeas corpus, the ancient legal principle guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution that prohibits governments from holding people in prisons without presenting charges. The U.S. government has broken the law of other nations by kidnapping foreign citizens and transporting them to other lands to be tortured. These massive crimes have been justified in the name of the war on terror. In truth, America's crimes foment revolution. It was the U.S. government that created the war on terror, which has been used to murder and dispossess millions of Iraqis and Afghanis, to imprison U.S. citizens as if they were medieval serfs, and to squander $3 trillion for the sole purpose of enriching Halliburton and the military security complex. The change over which Obama will preside will have no American victories. The change will come from America as a failed state, from the dollar dethroned as reserve currency, from America repudiated by its allies and paid puppets, from massive unemployment for which there is no solution, from hyperinflation that produces anarchy. The day may arrive when Washington is faced with revolution at home as well as abroad. This is an article by Paul Craig Roberts. You can find it over at Information Clearinghouse. I'll post a link to it in a little while as soon as I upload this video. Thanks for listening.